Tom, in this new book, you dig into President Trump's finances for the last few decades. As somebody who covers this is massively concerning. But think about those three guys my colleague Chris Jansing was just talking to. They're not thinking about the president's taxes, the implications, foreign governments. Why should they care about what you found?
Because, Stephanie, it goes to the very heart of democracy in the US or anywhere else. It's a question of whose interests do our rulers govern? We see, as you said, from Trump's tax returns, how dependent he was on renting out this image of himself. Yeah, this kind of pretense of a successful businessman. And what we don't see is who was buying that image, who sustained him for all those long years when banks had turned their back on him largely. I've spent years following that money, and I followed it into this place I called Kleptopia, this place which is ruled by kleptocrats, people who wield power through corruption. And if you follow the money that flows into Donald Trump through those years before the presidency, again and again, you see the trails that go back into Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, secret trails, but they're there to be found. And they sustained him. Money from those deeply corrupt, violent, kleptocratic regimes. And when he reaches office, he starts to govern like them. He forms alliances with them, and he starts to monetize the highest office in the US. And that is of profound importance to everyone in America and everyone everywhere else, I would argue, because it goes to the question of in whose interests is he governing? Is it the interest of those three people you just spoke to, one with the heartbreaking and moving story about losing his father-in-law? Is it in their interests, really, or is it in the interests of these international networks of kleptocrats? That is the crucial question.
Frank, the president was a businessman for years and years. A lot of big business guys run a lot of debt. Why wouldn't he just come clean and say, yep, these are my creditors? You say because we don't know this information, it makes him the most vulnerable president in our history.
He is the most vulnerable president in our history in terms of compromise and potential exposure to those who want to help him dig out of his financial pit in return for a price. And that's, I think, where the national security problem comes in. That price that they would ask for is that he makes decisions in their best interest, not in our best interest. There's also another layer to this, which is that when you're this entangled with Russia and the former Soviet bloc, you're going to run smack into organized crime figures. In fact, in my work in counterintelligence in the FBI, we often couldn't tell the difference between ex-Russian intelligence officers and current Russian organized crime figures. So there's too many gaps in the tax returns. There's too many questions. Why is this president paying more to foreign nations in taxes than he is to the United States? How does he cover his debt? Who's doing that for him? What's the Deutsche Bank connection? Why are there so many golf courses losing so much money? And why the continued purchase of those properties? So I suggest this, Stephanie, we've got to have a national discussion about how we vet a presidential candidate. We screwed this up, whether it's the media not digging deeply enough, whether it's a time to have a discussion about a bipartisan committee that demands tax returns, make that a requirement, or exposes financial pictures for candidates. But we got this wrong, and this can't happen again.
If he's vulnerable, that means we're vulnerable. Just a few nights ago, before the debate, former Secretary of State, President Trump's last opponent, Hillary Clinton, talked about the Russia connection and the national security threat. Please watch this.
It appears pretty clear to me, and, you know, I think to a lot of people, that Russian money was funneled through Deutsche Bank. Russian money was used as guarantees for continuing lending to Trump and his organization, despite his terrible track record financially. So is that part of the reason why you have undisclosed conversations on a regular basis with Vladimir Putin? Is that part of the reason why you do his bidding in undermining the EU, NATO, our friends and alliances?
All right, Frank, we're all concerned, but is there anything legal? Is there any legal mechanism that can force the president to share this information?
Well, we know that there are ongoing investigations, particularly at the Manhattan District Attorney's offices and in the state of New York Attorney General's offices, and likely others going on as well. And so once the constraints are off, if he's out of office, or even for those state and local cases, even while he's in office, there is the criminal process. There is the subpoena process. Investigations are going on. And I think, as I said, we need to set up something for the future where those tax returns and finances become a part of running for president. The real concern here is that we never got to the bottom, Stephanie, of that Russia counterintelligence case that was opened at the FBI that got turned over to Mueller, the special counsel, and never got resolved in terms of the counterintel questions. That needs to be reopened. Trump doesn't go away as a threat simply because he doesn't get reelected. He still has a head full of national secrets that could be for sale as he continues to try to dig himself out of $420 million in debt.
Tom, that needs to be done, that should be done, but the issue is that most likely will not be done, not in the next 33 days. And if the president is reelected, how concerned should the American people be about his relationships with leaders like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un?
Profoundly concerned. And I think Frank is absolutely right. But there's one crucial point to add to that, which is if you spent as much time as I have in the former Soviet Union and in West Africa and elsewhere, everybody understands there that the main purpose of elections is to preserve high office because it gives you immunity from prosecution. That is the purpose of holding high office in a fully flown kleptocracy, the kind of place that Trump has relied on for so long. Now, we see him going into this election, as Frank says, facing all manner of potential criminal investigations stemming from his past business career, stemming from his current behavior in office. The stakes for someone who sees holding political office as a guarantee of immunity from prosecution, those stakes could not be higher. And I think that's how to understand the way he's going about his campaign.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.